Hi, friends. Welcome to I'm Not Gonna Lie to You podcast. I am here with a fellow therapist who I met at the Meet a Black Therapist event. Her name is Jessica. Hello, Jessica. Welcome.
Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
I am happy to have you. I love having guests. It's like it's better than me just sitting here talking by myself. So I appreciate you coming on here. Before we get started on this topic, because Jessica came up with a really good topic for us to talk about today. But before we get started, I wanted to talk about peace in perspective. She is a Black therapist. She owns her own practice, and the practice name is Peace in Perspective. Please tell us how it came about and how people can find you.
So, I'm Jessica Daniel. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist and the owner of Peace in Perspective. And I've been in practice since 2019, and I'm completely virtual at this point. And my primary client is it's a millennial woman. She is like modern, she's educated, she's highly ambitious, and she's ready to break free from generational patterns that no longer serve her. My clients are typically like pretty like spiritual and holistic, and they like to like incorporate a lot of mindfulness. So I add that into our work together too. And they have a desire for like really deep transformational work. So this is not going to be like your basic therapy session where you're identifying your feelings like I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling upset. This is going to be like, all right, this is some deep shadow work. So I'm feeling like there's kind of like this darkness looming because of what has taken place in my family, and I'm ready to change it. So it's all about challenging those dysfunctional relationship patterns and cleaning some things up and shifting your mindset to something that is more light and aligned for you.
And so she does all of these things, which basically brings us into our topic of things getting worse before they get better in therapy and not quitting, because the type of work that she is doing and helping people through, oh, it definitely gets harder before it gets easier, because life happens, and when life happens, we have to pivot to readjust. And so that kind of brings us into our topic. You want to introduce it?
Yeah. So our topic today is about like why things seem to get worse before they get better in therapy. And I want to bring this up because I've noticed a pattern, and we all do this. I'm guilty of it too. It's like when we start to work on something, we love the idea of it. We fantasize about what life is going to be like on the other side. But then as we start to like dismantle like maladaptive like thinking patterns and thoughts and beliefs, we start to look around us and see that our life or like our perspective of the situation we're in is not quite what it seemed like before. So we start to notice that as we put boundaries in place, things start to become a bit more sticky or like rough, and then it relationships can collapse, like friends, family, like career, like all of these dynamics will change. And then that's when people want to stop. They'll be like, you know what, therapy's not working, things are getting worse. Thanks so much for your time, but I'm out. And this is going to be about letting people know that sometimes you've come too far just to go this far, and once you know too much, you straight up can't go back. So it's about like understanding that this is part of the journey, and when things are difficult, that typically means it's working and that you need to go forward with it.
So don't give up, right? Because
Exactly.
therapy is hard. That's one of the first things I tell people when we start therapy, is that it's hard,
Mhm.
because you're going to be looking in the mirror at things about yourself for the first time. Some things you're going to like, some things you're not going to like. And then things that you don't like, you got to work on changing so
Yeah,
that you do like them, and change is hard.
absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
that process, yeah, a lot of people quit. So we're here to say, don't quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Don't quit.
halfway there.
Yep.
When the shit gets hard, you're halfway there. Please
Exactly.
don't stop.
Exactly. And it comes down to like really believing in yourself and like really building and like flexing that resilience muscle. It's like we, especially as like women of color, Black women, have built up resilience in so many other ways. But when it comes to like our mental and emotional health, like sometimes we just need additional support in that. And even though like things all around us are like kind of can really drain us, we kind of got to like really, I guess, like hunker down into ourselves, our body, our mind, our spirit, and be like, all right, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep doing this because it does truly get better. And when I say it gets better, it might not be better tomorrow or even 3 months from that point. It could be better like 6 months, a year out, but it does happen.
It does. When you were just kind of talking, it reminds me about addiction, right? So
Yeah.
if you have an addiction, when you first go into treatment, it is rough. Going through withdrawal is
Mhm.
rough, right? But coming out on the other side of withdrawal, it's great.
Yeah.
It's like that song, I Can See Clearly Now.
Yeah.
You know, after that, you're like, oh, this is what people were talking about. Oh, this is what that feels like. Oh,
Exactly.
so those
Exactly.
aha moments start to come after you go through that withdrawal period,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you kind of go through an emotional withdrawal of, I'm used to being manipulative to getting my way.
Yeah.
Now I have to find a new way to get through that. And then it's like, oh, aha, I can do it other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point about like the emotional experience and like aiming for a new emotion. Because it's like a lot of the times we're not used to, or we can't necessarily conceptualize the emotional experiences that we're aiming for. So, for example, if you're used to being anxious or depressed, and that's your primary emotional state, to experience peace or calm is going to be really foreign to you. Your body or nervous system is not necessarily going to know how to respond or receive it. So it's about sitting in that discomfort as well with this transformation because your body's going to probably feel like, all right, we're used to being in survival mode. Things are calm. I'm actually safe right now. And then we start to like be uncomfortable with that. And a lot of people misinterpret like uh, peace as boredom when in
Mm.
actuality, it's like, no, like that piece is what it is. Like this is peace, boredom is something else. And I like to teach people how to like sink into that a bit more until it becomes like more of like a natural part of their day to day.
I like that. Peace is not boredom.
Hmm.
I don't know. This conversation is really bringing me back to addiction. Like, I don't know, for some
Yeah.
reason, so it's like when you do get sober and clean, right? One of the things that you learn is to redefine fun, because
Yeah.
fun
Hmm.
always had either some type of drug or alcohol or substance, right? And so that population has to go through that, how to redefine fun. Just like
Absolutely.
you're saying how to redefine, peace. Because
Mhm.
it's not boredom, it's actually peace, right?
Yeah,
You're so used to living with all this chaos around you. Now that you have calmed it, you're like, now what do I do?
exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
now what do I do with all this time
Yeah.
that I
Yeah,
have
that's
that I'm
another
not
thing.
stressed?
Yeah,
Right.
the time you start to realize you have a lot more time and you have a lot
Mm-hmm.
more energy, and that throws people off too. They don't really expect
Mm-hmm.
that to take place on this
Or
healing.
know what to do with it.
Yep. Yeah, or what to do
Yeah.
with that. So then, like with the addiction piece, it's like we can get tempted to go back to old ways and old behaviors because at least you feel like you're feeling
Familiar.
something.
It's
But I think that's
familiar.
an important thing to note too. It's like we are conditioned to intense emotional experiences when we're going through like survival mode or like trying to break like generational patterns here. So when we don't experience intensity, we feel like something is off. But I like to remind people like as intense as maybe that anxiety or depression is, like joy, excitement, and happiness can be just as intense on the other side of the spectrum.
You brought up something really good I would like to touch on a little bit.
Yeah.
Breaking the generational cycles,
Yeah.
right? That that is definitely a process where you can get halfway there and want to quit, because you start to see the people in your life not in such a warm and fuzzy way. When
Yeah.
we start accurately labeling what's happening, you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's not how that's supposed to go. And sometimes people feel like they have to choose whether they're going to continue to move forward in breaking this generational cycle or not and keep what they know
Yeah.
and what is they have decided to be their norm and developing a new normal. And sometimes that means not or redefining relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's hard
Yeah.
because change is lost. And sometimes that means losing relationships that you've had.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point for sure because people don't expect to grieve, and especially grieving people that are still around. And then grieving the loss of pretty much like every sort of dynamic. Like everything is going to change in your life. You might not recognize it right away, but it will. And especially with those generational patterns, it's whether it's the lack mindset or no, you're a woman, so you can't have X amount of dollars. You need to depend on a man or a partner for all of your needs and just really challenging and even like religious thinking patterns and like beliefs. It's like challenging those, recognizing that sometimes those can be really harmful and create like patterns of but it's like patterns of disharmony. We're just gonna go with that.
Okay. All right.
Or disruption. But yeah, it's like we get stuck in that. So yeah, grieving the things that you thought you believed in or thought were supposed to keep you safe and recognizing that, yeah, that's I have to create a new belief system or sever ties from people that I really love, but need to protect myself and put myself first. And especially if you have children of your own, you don't want those patterns to be transitioned or like continue with them. So the burden can be significant, but like you named, all the more reason to keep going.
Yeah. I like to use people having children as the motivation to keep going, right? Because you don't want your children or the generations to come to have to go through the same things you went through or have to go through breaking that cycle, right? That pattern, because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. So I think that one of the things that I would like people to get from this talk is therapy doesn't always feel good.
Hmm.
And if therapy always feels good, if it's always feeling good for you, then you're not doing any work.
Right. Yeah.
It's not working because it's not supposed to feel good all the time. Yes, it's going to feel good once you accomplish something, but if you are feeling good, then I'm not doing my job.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You
You
should not
know,
be validated
yes.
and like given like fluff every single time. You got to keep it real. And I do my best to do that with like each person I work with. And when I feel like it's a compliment, like a good number of my clients are also therapists too. And one client told me, she was like, during my first session with you, I cried. And that's how I knew like you were the right therapist for me. Because it does take that aligned connection where it's like if I can say the right thing and like kind of examine that wound with you and you feel like open to like letting me see it, like we can do the work. I already know we can access that deep point. But if you meet with your therapist and you're just like, oh, like this is fun, X, Y, and Z is going on, it's like, all right, like this isn't the right fit for you. You're not ready to like look and see like what's in your closet.
It's not. One of the things that I talk about in my intro with a new client is it's going to be hard.
Hmm.
And it's going to be hard and it's going to be hard work. I'm willing to do the work with you, but I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
And so if you're not ready to work, then I'm not the right one for you.
Yep.
I'm going to put it in the forefront and make us deal with it, or we're wasting each other's time here if we're not going to deal with the things that I see that are coming up.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and I've lost some clients that way where they're like, then you're not the right fit for me. And I'm okay with that. And I hope that they're okay with that,
Absolutely.
because yeah, I'm a solution focused, therapist. So I am here to get things done. I'll take as long as it needs to get,
Yeah.
that it needs to take, but we have to move forward and not just kind of stay comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah. And get used to being uncomfortable. in a different way. It's like we get conditioned to like the discomfort of again, like the maladaptive patterns and experiences and beliefs, but the new discomfort is going to be like experiencing like that lightness, that ease, that being able to breathe. But yeah, we gotta like sit in sit in the darkness for a bit to get there.
Go through the dark before it gets light, right?
Yeah.
What modality do you use
Yeah,
primarily?
yes, I primarily incorporate internal family systems. And for those who aren't sure as to what that is, if you've seen any of the Inside Out movies, that's pretty much internal family systems. So it's like we have our little emotional beings like happiness, joy, like I think there's sadness in there, and they all communicate with each other. And then the self, which is the girl in the movie, that is like our whole self. And so I like to teach people how to have conversation with the different parts of themselves because every part is valid, every part has something important to say. It's just a matter of us learning how to listen, acknowledge, and without judgment, like create space for the emotions to be expressed and seen. And then we can like kind of co-create together and figure out what the solution is to navigate what is happening on the outside of our being.
Nice. Nice. You put that beautifully.
Thank you.
You really did. You really did. I'm almost sure people are going to be like, oh, I want to try that.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's
It
really
really is.
powerful. Yeah, and I like to kind of incorporate it with a lot of mindfulness too. I feel like they kind of have to go together. So just being present in your body, learning like what different sensations in your bodies mean, what emotion is tied to that. And then a lot of my clients are really spiritual too. So some are into like Reiki, tarot, like crystals, all of that. Some aren't, and I'm fine with that. Some are like pretty religious and into Christianity, so I can like kind of I can work with like pretty much everything at this point on that, but it's like I like to incorporate those like outside aspects, like or those spiritual aspects because our internal family, if they are part of our core, needs like that guidance from like those outside perspectives.
It's me too. The name of your practice, Peace Perspective. And I remember when I first met her and when I asked her about it, and her helping people finding peace in their perspective is everything.
Yeah.
Peace is everything, right? So the moment we find peace, you grab it, you hold on to it, you try not to let it go.
Yeah.
So
Protect it with all you have.
yes, and going to her, your number one goal is to help people find peace.
Absolutely. Find
Love it.
peace and having like I guess managed expectations of what peace looks like too. It's not going to be all at once. I like to tell people you have to look for like the glimmers of peace, and they can be the small things of just like, all right, you saw that flower, it made you smile, like that's peace. All right, cool. That's one little dose of it, and we're going to build off of that. But yeah, it's an incredible journey, and I feel so honored to be on like this emotionally intimate journey with all of these other women and kind of like hear and like witness their transformations. I feel like it being a therapist, I'm sure as you can attest, Angel, it is such like a privileged position to be in for in somebody's life.
It is. I thank them all the time for allowing me to be a part of their journey because, and I love being people's cheerleaders to say, look at you, like look at how far you have come. Like, when we first started, this is
Yeah,
what you were saying, and now you're like, goodbye. I'm good with people leaving, and understanding that, and seeing the peace in that.
yeah,
So yes, I love that. So what do we have so far? So getting worse before getting better. So it's going to be tough because
yeah,
change is hard. Accurate labeling is hard.
yes, absolutely.
Um, and being able to say, oh, I did that. Oh, I was doing that and it didn't serve me well. So now here I am trying to find something new, grieving people that are still alive.
Yeah,
That's another aspect of the therapeutic process that would be getting worse before it gets better.
absolutely.
Um, Accepting people for who they are,
Yeah,
accepting situations for what they are,
yeah,
um, and learning to, I would say, control, to let go of the things you can't control and keep the things that you can, which is basically you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you know, that process, even though it's a long process, what it really boils down to is the only thing you can control is you. Everything else you got to let go.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. It's
Let
that
it go
fine,
and let it
yeah.
be.
It's
Hmm.
that fine balance between acceptance and then non-attachment, and then also like being non-judgmental with like what's taking place too, because we're all humaning to the best of our ability, even if some humans seem to be better than others. But it's about, yeah, how can you give compassion and grace not only to yourself but to others through this whole process? And it's a big surrendering experience, especially if you recognize that you might be the toxic one in your relationships, and how to come to terms with that, but also treat yourself with love, compassion, and regard as you navigate through it. And I love helping people with that part too.
That's a good word, surrender.
Hmm.
Ah, that is a powerful word.
Yeah.
It is hard, but once you do it, it's like a relief.
Yes. Yeah, we don't realize how heavy the burden is sometimes.
I mean, it really is. When you're trying to control everything, that is so stressful. It is so freaking stressful. But when you like surrender and you learn to be flexible and you just, kind of accept things for what they are, I mean, that's where it's at.
And absolutely.
That is peace. That
Yes.
is actually peace for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to the list of things you want people to take from this? Something you want them to remember?
Let me see here. I guess when it comes down to it, it's our emotions and our emotional experiences mean we're alive. So as long as you're feeling something, you're still here, you can still keep going, and you still have a chance to make things how you want them to be.
I love that. Anything else? I think we covered
I
everything.
think we
We're missing.
covered yeah, I think we covered it. Yeah.
All right. So how can they find you?
Peace underscore in underscore perspective. So it's kind of long again that you'll be able to find the link for that, but I'm on Instagram right now, and then my website, and then my email is also on there if you want to reach out and contact me.
Okay. And you are 100% virtual?
Yep, 100% virtual. I'm licensed only in Maryland, but I am working on expanding into starting a coaching business so I can work with people who are across the country and even across the world. So I'm excited to see how that can unfold for me in the future.
Excited for you for that, for
Yeah.
sure. Do you take insurance?
Ooh, yeah, good question. So I do. I accept Care First and Cigna. Yeah, Cigna right now. Yeah. And then
Awesome.
I can also provide super bills for those who are going to use their out-of-network benefits. And then also, I'm not sure if you know about this resource, but the Loveland Foundation. Have you heard of them?
Heard of Loveland.
Oh, okay. The Loveland Foundation has a therapy fund. So Black women can go onto the Loveland Foundation. I think it's like .com or .org. I'll have to look into that. But they have this therapy fund where you sign up, and they every quarter they release vouchers, and you get 12 vouchers for the year. And they provide up to $120 per therapy session that you can either be that you'll be reimbursed for. So it's like if you see a therapist that's out of network or doesn't take insurance at all, you can utilize that voucher and then get up to $120 back for your session.
So yeah, you go to the Loveland Foundation if you do want to see her and and your insurance isn't covered.
Yep.
Actually, you